General Morrison slammed his fist on the map. This is a suicide mission. Which pilot will volunteer? Silence. Then from an old radio frequency came a familiar voice, Ghost here, I accept the mission. But Ghost had died 2 years ago. Hey legends. If stories about incredible female pilots, impossible missions, and hidden government secrets get your heart racing, make sure you're subscribed, we've got so many more coming. I'm dying to know what you think. Was Ghost really dead all this time? What's your theory about the Shadow Organization? Let me know in the comments and show some love with a like if this story gave you chills. The Pentagon Sub-Level 7 Crisis Response Center hummed with desperate energy. Red alarm lights painted the walls in blood-colored shadows while massive screens displayed real-time satellite feeds of Iranian military installations. At 0347 hours on a Tuesday morning, the fate of millions hung in the balance. General Marcus Morrison, his weathered face bearing the scars of 25 years in the Air Force, stood hunched over a tactical display showing the Zagros Mountains of western Iran. His graying hair was disheveled from running his hands through it repeatedly as each update brought worse news. Status report, Morrison commanded, his voice cutting through the controlled chaos. Lieutenant Colonel James Harper, the intelligence officer, approached with grim data. Sir, satellite reconnaissance confirms Iranian Revolutionary Guard has activated their deep underground facility at coordinates 33.7 degrees north, 48.5 degrees east. The complex extends 200 feet below ground level, reinforced with hardened concrete and steel. Morrison studied the thermal imaging. What's their timeline? Intelligence indicates weapons-grade material will be fully processed in 4 hours and 23 minutes. Once complete, they can deploy within 6 hours to any target within a 2,000-mile radius. The implications hit everyone in the room like a physical blow. Major cities across Europe, American bases in the Middle East, Israel, all within range. Colonel Sarah Chen, the Air Combat Command representative, stepped forward. Sir, we've evaluated every conventional option. Cruise missiles can't penetrate the depth. Our bunker busters require precision delivery that only a manned aircraft can provide. Morrison nodded grimly. Show me the approach. The main screen shifted to a 3D tactical model. The Iranian facility sat nestled in a valley surrounded by mountains, protected by overlapping rings of surface-to-air missile sites, radar installations, and fighter patrol routes. The approach corridor is only 300 meters wide, Chen continued. Pilot would need to fly nap of the Earth through hostile territory, evade multiple SAM sites, defeat interceptor aircraft, and deliver ordnance with surgical precision. Success rate, 15%. Survival rate, 2%, Morrison finished quietly. The room fell into heavy silence. 20 of America's finest military officers contemplated sending someone to almost certain death. Major Robert Thompson, squadron commander of the 1st Fighter Wing, spoke what everyone was thinking, General, my pilots are the best in the world. But this isn't a mission, it's execution with extra steps. Morrison's jaw tightened. He'd been in command during operations where good people died for necessary causes. But this felt different. This felt like murder disguised as heroism. Gentlemen, Morrison said finally, let's face reality. This is a suicide mission. Which pilot will volunteer? The silence stretched endlessly. Air conditioning hummed. Computer systems beeped. Somewhere in the distance, phones rang with updates from other crisis centers. But in this room, among America's military elite, no one spoke. Because they all knew the truth, asking someone to die wasn't leadership. It was desperation. At precisely 0352 hours, an old emergency radio in the corner of the room crackled to life. Everyone turned in surprise, that frequency hadn't been used since the Cold War. Static, static. Then, clear as crystal, a female voice that stopped every heart in the room, Ghost here, I accept the mission. General Morrison's coffee mug slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor. Colonel Chen's face went white. Major Thompson actually took a step backward. "Who's speaking?" Chen whispered. Morrison's hands trembled as he stared at the ancient radio. That's impossible. Sir." Harper prompted. "Ghost," Morrison said, his voice barely audible. "Call sign Ghost. Captain Diana Rodriguez. She was killed in action over Syria, November 15, 2022. I signed the casualty report myself." The radio crackled again, "Request mission briefing. Ghost reporting for duty." Thompson found his voice first. "General, this has to be psychological warfare. Voice simulation, enemy intelligence." But Morrison was already moving toward the radio, his face a mixture of hope and terror. He'd known Diana Rodriguez better than anyone. She'd been his protégé, the most naturally gifted pilot he'd ever trained. Her loss had haunted him for 2 years. Morrison keyed the radio with shaking fingers. "Ghost, authenticate with code Alpha 77 Delta." The response came instantly, "Authentication confirmed. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot 99. Sir, with respect, we're burning daylight while Iran prepares their surprise party." Morrison's legs nearly gave out. That secondary authentication code existed in no computer, no file, no database. Only Diana knew it because he'd created it personally during a classified operation they'd run together 3 years ago. "Jesus Christ," Chen breathed. "She's really alive." "Ghost," Morrison managed, "where have you been for 2 years?" "Long story, General. Currently 25 minutes out from Andrews Air Force Base. I have a bird ready for immediate deployment. Transmit mission parameters." Lieutenant Jenkins, monitoring air traffic control, suddenly looked up in shock. "General, we're detecting an unscheduled F-35 Lightning II approaching restricted airspace. No flight plan, no authorization, but it's broadcasting. It's broadcasting Ghost's old transponder signature." Morrison grabbed binoculars and rushed to the observation window. Through the pre-dawn darkness, navigation lights outlined a sleek fighter jet descending toward the airfield. Even at this distance, he could see it wasn't entirely standard, modifications that didn't appear in any manual. "Ghost, how did you acquire that aircraft?" A pause, then, "Let's say I've been working on special projects. This particular bird has capabilities not found in your standard inventory." 23 minutes later, the Crisis Response Center's blast doors opened. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned. Captain Diana "Ghost" Rodriguez walked in like she owned the room. She looked exactly as Morrison remembered, 5 feet 6 inches, athletic build, short black hair, and those piercing green eyes that seemed to see through everything. Her flight suit was pristine but subtly different, with patches and insignia that didn't match any known unit. But something had changed. The confident young pilot Morrison remembered had been replaced by someone harder, more dangerous. Her eyes held secrets that went deeper than any classified operation. "General," Diana said, her voice carrying absolute authority despite her relatively junior rank. "We need to talk." Morrison found himself standing at attention without realizing it. "Ghost, we need to know where you've been." Diana surveyed the room, noting familiar faces and assessing new ones with the calculating gaze of someone who'd learned not to trust anyone completely. "Sir, with all due respect, there are bigger problems than debriefing a dead woman. Iran launches in 3 hours and 47 minutes. Do you want to save American lives, or do you want paperwork?" She moved to the tactical display with fluid confidence, studying target data like a chess master analyzing a board. Deep underground facility, multiple defense layers, narrow approach corridor. Her finger traced potential flight paths. This is why conventional strikes have failed. But there's a solution. Colonel Chen stepped forward. "Ghost, we need verification. 2 years missing, no contact, no explanation." Diana turned to Chen with a slight smile that was equal parts warmth and warning. "Sarah, still worried about protocol when the world's ending? Remember Nevada, 2021. That training simulation where we crashed, but actually prevented a catastrophic systems failure? You were so concerned about the accident report that you almost forgot we'd saved 200 simulated civilians. Chen's face went pale. That incident had been classified beyond top secret. Only she and Diana knew the real details. It's really her, Chen whispered. Morrison stepped closer. Ghost, this mission is different. The survival rate is approximately 2%, Diana finished. I heard. General, in the past 2 years, I've learned some things about impossible odds. This mission isn't suicide if you know what you're doing. She produced a tablet displaying detailed schematics that made every intelligence officer in the room lean forward. This facility has one critical weakness, Diana continued. Thermal exhaust port, precisely 2.7 meters in diameter, located on the eastern slope 47 meters below ground level. Precise ordnance delivery through that port triggers a cascading failure that collapses the entire complex. Jenkins studied the blueprints with growing amazement. Ghost, how did you obtain classified Iranian facility schematics? Diana's expression darkened slightly. Like I said, special projects. Projects that provided access to unique resources. Morrison was beginning to understand. Ghost, have you been working with intelligence agencies? Black operations? Something like that. Diana looked directly at Morrison, and he saw something in her eyes that chilled him. General, I disappeared because I discovered something. The Syria mission where I died? It wasn't what they told you. The room fell silent as Diana continued. I found evidence of a conspiracy that goes to the highest levels of our government. People selling classified technology to hostile nations, then creating conflicts to justify massive defense spending. Major Thompson leaned forward. What kind of conspiracy? The kind where American officials provide nuclear centrifuge designs to Iran, then use the resulting threat to secure billion-dollar military contracts. The kind where good soldiers die so corrupt politicians can profit from perpetual warfare. Morrison felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. Ghost, that's a serious accusation. It's also provable fact. Diana's voice became steel. I spent 2 years working with a shadow organization that fights threats the official military can't touch. This Iran situation. It's directly connected to what I discovered in Syria. She manipulated the tablet, displaying financial records, communication intercepts, and photographic evidence. Senator Marcus Blackwood, chairman of the Senate Defense Committee. General Patricia Wexford, Joint Chiefs of Staff. Deputy Director Harrison of the CIA. They've been selling American military secrets for 3 years. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank transfers, encrypted communications, meeting records showing a web of corruption that reached the Pentagon's highest levels. But this Iran facility isn't just about nuclear weapons, Diana continued. They're developing something worse. Biological weapons designed to target specific genetic markers. Colonel Chen's face went white. Targeted biological weapons. Engineered viruses that kill people of specific ethnic backgrounds while leaving others untouched. Genocide with plausible deniability. The conspirators plan to trigger a limited release, blame Iran, then use the crisis to justify a war that will generate trillions in defense contracts. Morrison realized the true scope of the threat. How much time do we have? 3 hours, 31 minutes until weaponization is complete. After that, they can deploy anywhere in the world within 24 hours. The room erupted in concerned murmurs as the implications sank in. Major Thompson asked the obvious question, Ghost, if you've been working with shadow resources, why not use them for this mission? Diana smiled grimly, because this particular mission requires someone officially dead. Someone with nothing to lose and skills acquired outside normal military channels. Someone crazy enough to fly into certain death and experienced enough to survive it. Morrison made his decision. Ghost, you're cleared for immediate deployment. What do you need? Just my bird and clear airspace. Oh, and General. Diana headed toward the door. When this is over, we're going to clean house. The corruption I discovered reaches people in this room. Everyone exchanged suspicious glances as Diana left for final preparations. 47 minutes later, Diana sat in her modified F-35 Lightning II, running through pre-flight checks. The aircraft was unlike any standard fighter, stealth capabilities enhanced beyond military specifications, weapon systems that didn't appear in any manual, and defensive countermeasures acquired through shadow operations. Ghost, this is Control. You are cleared for takeoff. Godspeed. Diana's voice came through the radio, calm and lethal. Control, this is Ghost. I've been dead for 2 years. Today, I'm coming back to life. The F-35 accelerated down the runway with otherworldly grace, lifting into the pre-dawn sky carrying the hopes of millions and the skills of a pilot who had already died once. As Diana's fighter climbed through 30,000 feet, she activated classified systems that transformed her aircraft into something beyond current technology. Stealth signatures that made her invisible to radar, communication jammers that could blind entire defense networks, and most importantly, weapon systems acquired during 2 years of shadow operations. Ghost to Control, entering hostile airspace. Beginning electronic warfare sequence. The Iranian defense network that had seemed impregnable on paper began failing systematically. Radar stations went dark. Communication links severed. Surface-to-air missile sites lost targeting capability. But Diana knew the real challenge lay ahead. The facility itself was protected by systems that couldn't be jammed, human operators with visual tracking and manually operated weapons. Control, Ghost. Approaching primary target. Initiating final attack sequence. Diana dove her F-35 into the mountain valley, flying barely 50 feet above the ground at 600 miles per hour. Anti-aircraft fire erupted around her, creating a deadly light show in the dawn sky. She pulled up at the last possible second, rolled inverted, and dove toward the thermal exhaust port with mathematical precision. At exactly the right moment, she released her payload, a single, precisely guided bomb that disappeared into the 2.7-meter opening. Control, Ghost. Ordnance delivered. Exiting target area. 15 seconds later, the underground facility erupted in a massive explosion that could be seen from space. Secondary explosions continued for several minutes as the cascading failure Diana had predicted destroyed the entire complex. Control, Ghost. Mission accomplished. Threat eliminated. 6 hours later, Diana stood in the Pentagon briefing room facing the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But this time, she wasn't alone. Agents from her shadow organization had quietly arrested the conspirators she'd identified. Senator Blackwood, General Wexford, and Deputy Director Harrison sat in handcuffs as evidence of their treason was presented. Gentlemen, Diana said, addressing the remaining leadership, the Iran crisis was manufactured. These individuals sold our enemies the technology, then planned to profit from the resulting war. The facility I destroyed today contained evidence of their involvement. General Morrison, cleared of any wrongdoing, stepped forward. Ghost, what happens now? Diana smiled, the first genuine expression of happiness anyone had seen from her in years. Now we rebuild. We create a military that serves the American people instead of corrupt politicians. And we make sure that pilots like me never have to die to expose the truth. She looked around the room at faces that represented the best of American military tradition. Some secrets are worth keeping. Some lies are worth exposing. And some ghosts are worth bringing back to life. 3 months later, Colonel Diana "Ghost" Rodriguez stood before a new generation of pilots at Top Gun Academy. Her promotion had been immediate, her reinstatement complete, and most importantly, her mission successful. The most important lesson I can teach you, Diana told her students, is that being a pilot isn't about the aircraft you fly. It's about the principles you serve and the people you protect. A young female pilot raised her hand. "Colonel, what was it like to be dead for 2 years?" Diana smiled, thinking about the shadow organization that had recruited her, the missions that had taught her things no official military training could provide, and the corruption she'd helped expose. "It taught me that legends don't die," she said. "They just wait for the right moment to return." After the briefing, Diana walked out to the flight line where her F-35 waited for the afternoon training mission. The aircraft bore new markings now, official squadron insignia alongside mysterious symbols that represented operations the public would never know about. As she climbed into the cockpit, Diana reflected on the journey that had brought her back from the dead. The conspiracy had been exposed, the threat eliminated, and justice served. But most importantly, she'd learned that some things are worth dying for, and some things are worth living for. "Ghost to control," she said as her fighter lifted into the blue sky. "Requesting permission for advanced training mission." "Permission granted, Ghost. Welcome back to the world of the living." Diana smiled as she climbed toward the clouds, knowing that legends never truly die, they just evolve into something more dangerous and more necessary than ever before. Because sometimes the best way to serve your country is to disappear completely, and sometimes the only way to save the world is to come back from the dead with skills that officially don't exist and a mission that never happened. The ghost had returned. And the world was safer because of it.